If you're building a SaaS MVP and considering microservices, this video could save your startup from financial disaster. I'm talking about 50% slower development, infrastructure costs that could blow through your entire budget, and debugging nightmares that will consume 40% of your development time. Today I'm going to show you why 90% of the MVPs should avoid microservices completely, backed by hard data from the industry experts and real startup failures. Hello everyone, if microservices seem like the modern and scalable choice for your SaaS, you are about to discover why this architectural decision could be the biggest mistake that kills your startup before it even begins. I have analyzed the research, studied real-world case studies, and the results are shocking. By the end of this video, you will know exactly when to use microservices, when to avoid them, and how to build an MVP architecture that actually supports your business goals instead of destroying them. If you're new to this channel, I would request you that you subscribe to our channel and press that bell icon. I share deep dives like this on SaaS, AI, and product strategy every week. I also send a lot of free giveaways like ebooks, templates, and worksheets to our subscribers regularly. Let's start with what the most respected voice in software architecture has discovered. Martin Fowler, after starting hundreds of microservices implementations, found two devastating patterns that every startup founder needs to understand. Pattern number one, almost all successful microservices stories started with a monolith that eventually got too big and was broken up. These companies didn't guess at their service boundaries, they discovered them through real users' patterns and actual business needs. Pattern number two, almost all cases where systems were built as microservices from scratch ended up in serious trouble. These aren't isolated failures, this is a consistent pattern across the industry. Fowler advocates for what he calls the monolith first strategy, and there are two critical reasons why this approach works. During the early phase of any product, you need to prioritize speed and cycle time for feedback. The complexity premium of microservices become a drag that actively works against your success. But more importantly, even experienced architects have difficulty getting service boundaries right at the beginning. Building a monolith first helps you figure out the right boundaries through real-world users before microservices add layers of complexity. Now let me show you the numbers that should terrify every startup founder. Companies that choose microservices from day one see 50% slower feature development compared to monolith. Think about what this means. While your competition with a monolith ships a critical feature in 2 weeks, you will need 4 weeks. In the startup world, this speed difference can literally determine who wins the market. But the speed problem gets worse. The same companies experience 3 times more production fires due to complexity. When something breaks, and it will break, you are not just debugging your code, you are debugging the interaction between multiple services, network calls, and distributed systems complexity. For early stage SaaS companies, microservices introduce unnecessary complexity at every level. Let me walk you through what a simple debugging session looks like. Imagine you are troubleshooting a checkout flow issue. In a monolith, you check one log file, follow the code path, and identify the problem. With microservices, the same checkout flow might require tracing through user service, payment service, inventory service, and email service. What used to be a 30-minute debugging session becomes a 3-hour distributed tracing nightmare. This cross-service debugging can consume 40% of your development time that should be spent building features and talking to customers. Testing becomes equally painful. In a monolith, testing a feature requires straightforward unit and integration tests. With microservices, you need to mock multiple services just to ship a simple feature. What used to be a straightforward test becomes a complex orchestration of mock dependencies, and every change requires updating multiple test suites. Deployment overhead explodes exponentially. Here are the real numbers. Deploying a fix takes 5 minutes in a monolith versus 45 minutes for a conditional microservices rollout. Tracing a request checking one log file versus 4 distributed traces plus logs. Onboarding a new engineer takes 1 day versus 1 week to learn the entire ecosystem. The cost will shock you, and for cash-strapped startups, these numbers can be the difference between success and failure. Let me break down the real financial impact with specific examples. Infrastructure costs spiral out of control because each microservice needs its own CI/CD pipeline, dedicated monitoring, and separate scaling rules. One company I researched saw their AWS bill grow 5 times before reaching just 10,000 users. Every service requires its own database, its own monitoring setup, its own deployment pipeline, and its own scaling configuration. Development team efficiency plummets. A simple A/B test for a pricing page took 2 weeks due to the orchestration bugs versus 2 hours in their old monolith. Imagine trying to explain to investors why a basic website change took your team 2 weeks when competitors are shipping daily. The setup costs alone are staggering. Building microservice architecture can cost from $10,000 to $40,000 just for planning phase, with total implementation costs reaching up to $150,000 or more for complex systems. Compare this to monolithic MVP costs. A simple MVP costs $5,000 to $15,000. Medium complexity runs $15,000 to $50,000, and even complex MVPs typically cost $50,000 to $100,000. The microservices premium can cost you 3 to 10 times more upfront, with ongoing operational overhead that's 3 to 5 times higher than monoliths. Now I want to be clear. I'm not completely against microservices. There are situations where they make sense from day one, but this represents only about 5% of the projects. You are in this rare category if you have regulatory requirements like needing to isolate PCI compliant payment data in a separate service. You might need microservice if you have massive teams of 50 plus engineers with clear domain boundaries already established. Extreme scale requirements from the day one, though this is very rare for true MVPs, might justify the complexity. Or if you have multiple distinct business domains that are already well understood and naturally separate. If you do not check these specific boxes, you are over-engineering your MVP and setting yourself up for failure. So what should you do instead? Start simple, but plan smart. Build your monolith with clear internal boundaries and separation of concerns. Think of it like designing a house. You can always add walls later, but you will need a solid foundation first. The benefits of monolithic architecture for MVPs are compelling. Faster time to market with simple deployment and development. Lower initial cost with single infrastructure setup. Easier debugging with all code in one place. Simpler testing without distributed system complexity, and better management for small teams. While building your monolith, prepare for eventual microservices migration by using modular design. Structure your monolith with clear internal boundaries. Implement an API-first approach. Design internal APIs even within your monolith to ease feature extraction. Apply domain-driven design principles by organizing code around business capabilities rather than technical layers. Follow clean architecture patterns with proper abstraction layers to facilitate future service extraction. For SaaS MVPs, focus on these core components: user authentication and basic profile management. Your core business functionality that represent your unique value proposition, simple dashboard and analytics, and basic subscription and billing management. That's it. Avoid over-engineering with complex AI and automation features, multi-language support, custom integration, and advanced workflow automation. These can all come later after you have validated that customers actually want your core product. So when do you actually consider microservices? Look for the specific technical and business indicators. Technical indicators include deployment becomes slow and risky due to application size. Different parts of your application have vastly different scaling needs. Technology stack limitations prevent innovation, and development team conflicts over shared code base become frequent. Business indicators are equally important. You have multiple development teams with 15 plus developers total. Clear business boundaries have emerged through actual users, and you need independent scaling of different features based on real user behavior, and regulatory requirements for data isolation have become necessary. The key insight is that you need multiple of these indicators, not just one. Do not migrate just because you have scaling needs. That might be solved with better caching or database optimization. When you are ready to migrate, use proven strategies. The strangler fig pattern lets you gradually extract services from your existing monolith rather than doing a risky big bang migration. Focus on business capability extraction. Start with well-defined business capabilities that have minimal dependencies. Take a vertical slice approach by extracting complete vertical slices of functionality rather than horizontal technical layers. The most successful companies in the world started with monoliths. Instagram built their initial platform as a monolith and only migrated to microservices when they needed to handle hundreds of millions of users. Dropbox started with a simple monolithic architecture and gradually extracted services as their business grew and requirements became clear. Airbnb built their marketplace as a monolith and migrated to microservices only when they had multiple product teams working on different aspects of their platform. These companies didn't start with the microservices because they were smart enough to understand that their MVP success depended on three critical factors: speed to market, user feedback cycles, and resource efficiency. Monoliths excel in all these three areas, while microservices work against all three during the crucial early stages. So here is what every SaaS founder needs to understand. Your MVP has one job: prove your business concept with minimal investment and maximum learning velocity. Microservices work against both of these objectives during the crucial early stages of your journey. The evidence is overwhelming. Industry experts recommend monolith first. The financial data shows microservices cost 3 to 10 times more upfront. The operational complexity slows development by 50%. The debugging nightmares consume 40% of development time. The success stories all started with monoliths. Start simple, scale smart. Build that thoughtful monolith with clear boundaries. Validate your product market fit and only then consider microservices when you encounter the specific scaling challenges they actually solve. Do not let architectural perfectionism kill your startup before you even validate that customers want what you are building. Your future self will thank you for choosing speed and simplicity over complexity and theoretical scalability. Focus on building something people want, not something that looks good in architectural diagrams. If this video just saved you from making a costly architectural mistake, smash that like button to help other founders avoid the same trap. Drop a comment below and tell me, are you building your MVP as a monolith or microservices? I want to hear your approach and your reasoning. I read every single comment and I'll respond with specific advice for your situation. And if you want to dive deeper into when and how to actually migrate from monolith to microservices when the time is right, that's exactly what I'll cover in my next video. Please subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you do not miss it. I'll see you there.